Good evening, everyone. We're here for a public hearing. We've got a public hearing on two items to be considered on second and final reading tonight. I'll read those two on for the record. We have the first one, which is to amend fiscal year 2022-2023 budget to add 6 firefighter positions. The second one is to approve the annexation and plan of services for the Smith property, 690 through 694 South Rutland Road, map 96, parcel 32.11, approximately 0.86 acres. If you have any comments for the board on these two items, I'd invite you to come forward and give your name and address for the record. Okay, seeing none for comments on these two items, we will adjourn the public hearing and reconvene for our regular scheduled meeting at 6:30. Good evening, everyone. Today is January 9, 2023, and I'm going to call this meeting to order pursuant to City Code 62210. We have a quorum present, all 5 elected officials. The next item on the agenda is to set the agenda tonight. So with that, if there's no objection, we'll set the agenda as published. Hearing no objection, we have a 55-page packet, 4 items on unfinished business, 2 items on new business. If you're here in the audience, we should have them in the baskets on the out here to follow along. If you're watching online, it's available on our website as well. So with that, we'll move to our next item, which is the invocation and pledge of allegiance. I'd invite our fire chief, Chief Luffman, to come forward and lead us in the invocation and pledge, please.
Hey, our ladies and gentlemen, our first responders are out on a bad wreck on the interstate right now. So let's keep them in our prayers so that they're safe. There's no fatalities, just a lot of debris and a lot of lanes shutting down dark of night. So if you would, please. If you'll pray with me. Gracious God, we invite you into these proceedings, Lord, and we ask that all that is said and done glorify your name. We pray that our elected officials would have the eyes to see that all of our lives are connected and how our common good is held up when we listen and respond to those that are strong and those that are not. We pray that your kingdom would come as it is in heaven through your working power in each of these elected officials. May your truth be revealed. May your light shine brighter. May the voices of those all be heard loud and clear. Dear Lord, we pray for wisdom, strength, and courage for these brave elected officials. And also, dear Lord, I ask that you would give them peace in their decisions and as they go about caring for our citizens. Dear Lord, we ask all these things in your Son's name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice for all.
Thank you, Chief. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. We have one set of minutes on here from our December 12th meeting. Is there a motion? Motion. Second. Commissioner, you're looking to be recognized? Yeah. Commissioner Mullally?
I think I might be missing a page, but oh, here, maybe this is page 3 of the minutes on 9A1. Let's see, this is under, I've got my pages out of order here. I think this, first reading. I almost positive this should say second reading. It's under 9. It's 9A1, and under the A right above it, it says ordinance says first reading deferred 12/12, but I'm almost positive that was the second reading because the first reading was in November at the first November reading. Because it was heard before the Planning Commission in October, heard before us. We voted on it 4-1, and then and it was in the second November meeting in those minutes. So that needs to be changed to second reading.
I just have 9.1.
What's the project name, Commissioner?
It is amending Part B of the Unified Development Code, the 20-acre reduction.
That's on for tonight, second reading.
Ordinance 2001-29.
But it's on tonight for second reading. And
It was deferred at the last meeting.
Right, but
says first reading, I believe is what she's saying.
Okay.
So it should be corrected to second reading?
yeah, second reading actually was what was deferred.
Is there any objections to making that change from first reading to second reading? Okay.
Is it the first reading or is it second reading?
Well, let's talk about the minutes. So if it's deferred tonight, was deferred there for second reading.
So it's already passed on first reading. Is that what you're saying?
in November.
Passed it on November.
Okay. So tonight is the second reading.
If it's passed once, this would have to be second. That's my logic.
Yeah. I mean, I went to Mountain too, but yeah, I'm good.
All right. So no objections on making that change to the minutes. All right. Any other changes or concerns with the minutes? All right. Hearing none, are you ready to vote? All in favor of the agenda, or excuse me, of the minutes with the one change, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I will abstain because, well, I had the flu and chose not to bring it here, so I was not present. So I will abstain on the minutes votes. Next item on the agenda is citizen comments. At this point, we will invite you forward to address the board. We reserve the right to terminate comments if your remarks become abusive to citizens, employees, or fellow board members. The board's under no obligation to respond to questions from the floor, but this is your opportunity to address the board for comments. We'd recognize you for 3 minutes, and this is pursuant to our city code, which is Chapter 2, Section 2, 220 code, which got the citizen comments locked at 3 minutes. So if you would like to address the board, I'd ask you to come forward, give your name and address for the record.
Good evening. I'm Mike Shaw. I'm a homeowner of 109 Baird Farms Boulevard in Baird Farms. And I'm here tonight just to address the sewer system charges that are newer, I guess, to the community. I'm fresh to Tennessee from Colorado. We moved in September of 21. This is our second winter, and yes, it's colder here than Colorado in the wintertime. So, but I Just want to address, we ended up getting a sewer bill November for October of $200 and something, and every bill before that was in the $20 range. And I called to address it with the sewer department, and they had told me that that was because they had averaged your water bill across the summer, and then as of October 1, if you continue to water your lawn, that goes into the bill. But my argument was everything that I put on my lawn doesn't go in the sewer, and I'm paying the sewer charge, right? So, and their argument at that time was, well, you can get by adding a $3,000 water meter to your irrigation system, so they know how to bill you. I wouldn't think that's my fault that they don't know how to invoice the citizen. I think it would be the sewer system's problem to find out how much I actually use a sewer, in my opinion. You know, I think if they still need to average, why don't they average the winter months? Because truly, interior water is used the same probably every month. If you have 2 people in the house, you have 4 people in the house. Every month, they're probably flushing the toilet the same, taking as many showers, doing the same thing in the house. Now, when you get outside in the summertime, you are going to use a lot more water because that's what irrigates your yard. You know, in addition to that, not a lot of people have irrigation systems, but you know, I do, to keep my property beautiful for, you know, our society. So I would like to just see if there's something different you guys could do, or, you know, in the future. But, you know, like I said, June, July, August, September, I was $30 or less. In October, it went up to $204. And one reason too, as well, as everybody watered more this year or later because we had kind of a drought, right? Where there was 18 days that were above 74 degrees. So, I mean, you want to keep your lawn healthy. And then for the people that don't understand their sprinkler systems, that have, you know, people like Nashville Sprinkler to come out and blow out their systems, they'll continue to use their system until Nashville comes out and turns it off and blows it out. Well, they didn't come out until November due to the weather was so nice.
Yeah.
So
I
had $200. There's 5 of us real close. There was one person that had a $700 bill, another $300, and then 3 of us were $200.
Was it Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I do, and I said we're not obligated to answer questions from the floor, but I don't see anybody here from staff. That's probably a better choice. So I will. I'll say this: it's not the averaging program, and I admit it can be very confusing. It's most cities don't do things like the average. I shouldn't say most. I say the examples I know around here don't have an averaging program. Those cities, if you purchase water, whether it's summer year round, you're going to be billed sewage for it no matter what, unless you get an irrigation meter. That's the only solution. This is a program we put in place to try to help people with the irrigation without having to buy a separate tap. Because I think what was it, $3,000 for the additional tap?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was the
Well, he didn't say
intention.
tap, he said a meter. So I didn't know if they put 2 meters coming in
Off the same tap.
and
It's
then
possible.
one going out to your irrigation system, then they subtract total from the use of the
Yeah, you only do build the sewage on the one going to your house, was the
Right.
irrigation
right.
one is excluded. So it's a program the city put in place. We've tweaked it over the years to try to do that. What you're suggesting doing over the winter months, I think now we're using January, February, March to set the base, because we had people that would go over after the cutoff on the averaging had hit. So we put a buffer window in there. And the best way I can describe it is that buffer window is there for the people that don't get the memo. You got to cut off at a certain date. It doesn't affect the average going forward. And that was the intention behind it. I apologize it hasn't worked as planned for you,
Well,
sir.
why isn't there just a flat rate for all residents?
Because
Well,
it's a utility and we have to bill based on usage.
But you're not using the sewer when you irrigate your yard.
Well, you're billed based on the water usage on this. So the
Well,
water.
I understand that because I paid the $200 bill.
Yes, sir.
But I'm saying I didn't utilize your sewer system for that $200.
And the only way we have to get around that's an irrigation meter.
Well, that should be the sewer system, the cities,
If there was a thing called a sewer meter, then that would be a cost that we would have to pass on to all the residents to put a meter on this.
again, why isn't there just a flat fee for all residents?
It is a utility and it has to be managed based on usage.
Well,
It's a state law.
I understand I'm in Mount Juliet, but when I was in Denver, Colorado, it is a flat fee there, and I don't know how they get away with it.
It's
and-
just they probably don't. Well, they are not under Tennessee state law in
No.
Colorado.
Oh, so it's a Tennessee state law.
Well, it's a utility. It's
Oh, I didn't know
managed. While the sewer system is part of the city of Mount Juliet, it's a separate utility it's a separate entity basically managed by the city. You can't take tax dollars and put into it. You can't take sewer fund money and put it into tax dollars. Well, you can, but we go to jail. But there's documentaries about that. So it's managed. It's managed as a total separate entity. It's just this West Wilson Utility District here is a separate utility district from the city itself. I believe it actually predates the city in its existence. So we don't have any say. They do the billing for us. We reimburse them for the billing. So
Now, where do I buy my water from? Do I buy it from the city?
you buy it from West Wilson Utility District. Perhaps
And
Gladeville
how-
Utility
and
District,
how
depending
is-
on
how is that information sold
I'm
or
s-
given to the sewer system?
first of all, we're way over the 3 minutes. I do not work in the sewer department. That information is gathered from the sewer.
Okay.
They have a contract with them. Our city manager may more of the details on how that's transmitted, but they have accounts. We work with them just as if you went in, if you didn't pay your sewer bill here, then we transmit it to the water department. And that's kind
Well,
of the two work coexisting.
I'll leave you with this. I think you owe it to the citizens to charge them accurately, which you're not. I don't even know if it's legal. If you're charging to
Well,
use a sewer system and I'm not putting anything down your sewer system, why am I legally bound to pay that?
Well, sir,
I could see everything I put down it to pay for it, but if I'm not using it, then why am I paying for it?
thank you, sir. Okay.
Just very briefly, the only way we can tell how much sewer is being used is by the water, other than a separate meter.
Yep.
So there's no way to quote, take somebody's word, quote, close quote, that I used it to sprinkle as opposed to whatever else they were doing with it. So there's no way to tell what's sewer and what isn't water. So we average it to try to give everyone a break as much as possible. But if you want it accurately done, and so you're not quote overcharged, then a separate metering, that which we have at my house. So anyway,
And most cities do require that,
Yeah.
or most utilities do require that.
Require what, another
Done.
meter?
A separate meter if you don't want to be charged for irrigation.
Okay.
All right. Anyone else for citizen comments? Name and address for the record, please.
Jeremy Hayes, 120 Southwest Cook Road, Mount Juliet, Tennessee. This is the first time I've actually seen you in person since being appointed vice mayor. Congratulations, Mr. Trevette. You're a great honor to our city. Also, I want to take a moment to show respect to the people who attended the meeting with Governor Lee. You know, I don't think you guys get enough recognition for the hard work you guys do. I'm 40 years old, born and raised Mount Juliet, Tennessee. I remember the first time I met Kenny Martin, I was probably 6 years old. And this is, didn't mean to throw you under there. But I think this is the first, well, there you go. I think this is the first time in my lifetime that I can remember a board, a mayor, etc., a city working so well in unison. So really, congratulations, you guys, and way to work for our city. Appreciate it. You know, our mayor, Kenny Martin, our city manager, Andy Barlow, attended a meeting with Governor Lee where we were facing some, I guess, obstacles is the best way to say it, with some of the things that were promised to us whenever our taxes were raised. But in facing those obstacles, the mayor didn't shy away from it. He became very creative. And I know that there's a lot of projects in the state of Tennessee right now to where ours could be pushed in the back end. I think even Commissioner Hefner said that he spoke with TDOT and they said that they're 8 to 10 years away from looking at the Central Pike interchange, even though that was promised to us as a project that would be soon done or shortly done. But under the leadership of our mayor, I know our city is the only one in the state of Tennessee that has presented a proposal to the Tennessee or state of Tennessee and TDOT like we are. And I appreciate all of you guys in here. You know, like I said, I'm 40 years old. I've been here since the time that I was a little kid. The Central Pike would be done and that interchange would be done. And for the first time, we can actually see it. There's light at the end of the road. So thank you guys. Thank you all for the work that you do. Have a blessed evening. I'm going home with my kids.
Thank you, sir. That's kind comments, but still, nothing up here happens. It takes the entire board, and to make meetings like that happen, to have any ability to do things above and beyond what a lot of municipalities are able to do, not only requires what this board's done, but previous boards in years and years of being very fiscally conservative with their spending and the way they budgeted things. So we put ourselves in a good position here as a community. So there'll be more about what he was talking about tonight. It's definitely not all on me or my shoulders that made that possible. A lot of people put a lot of work into that. With that said, we'll move into commissioner reports and comments. At this point, I'll recognize our District 1 Commissioner, Commissioner Justice.
Thank you, sir. First of all, I'm trying to find everything that I'm looking for here. First of all, I would like to let everybody know that on December the 28th of 2022, I was given a little bit of a late Christmas present by my son and his wife. My granddaughter, Lainey Mae Justice, was born. And she came into the world early because she was tired of waiting. She's as impatient as her grandfather is. But she is beautiful, and she's in the hospital right now in the NICU while they're letting her grow. But when she was originally born, she was 2 pounds and 8 ounces, little bitty thing. But the doctors described her as being healthy as a horse. And so God has been very good to my family. And we're just tickled to death. I've been able to go up and see her in the NICU and see how impatient she can be, even with us visiting with her. It's kind of fun to watch. For everybody in Mount Juliet, for everybody, I would like to say I hope you had a Merry Christmas, and I hope we have a very happy and a very blessed New Year in the year 2023. I want to say also regarding Wednesday night's urban growth boundary meeting, and somebody can help me out with the actual times of that. It's 5 to 8, and it's going to be in the Panettone room at Charlie Daniels Park in our community center. There's been a lot of miscommunication, and I want to make sure everybody understands that because somebody is being changed or being put into our urban growth boundary, that does not mean that they're going to be annexed. If you were in an existing home, chances are we don't want you. An existing road, we probably don't want that either. We don't want the liability. What we're looking at doing is trying to help the area that surrounds Mount Juliet develop, new development come in, and we use stricter guidelines than normally what the county does. And so that's the reason. Now, this one, we've been very blessed with the county actually participating with us during this process. Tommy shares with the county. I think they're holding their meeting tonight, if I'm not mistaken. So they're up there trying to do their due diligence and present this to the public and let them know what's going on. But the urban growth boundary does not mean that we're annexing anybody. Truth is, we can put them in our urban growth boundaries, but the end result is the state of Tennessee has a state law that says we cannot annex you if you do not want to be annexed. Do you know if there's any that I'm good on that? I'm accurate? Thank you. Okay. So those of you that are freaking out and thinking that the city of Mount Juliet is going to come out and annex you and take you under our control, we're not going to do that. So don't want anybody freaking out. The growth comments that I have seen, the people that I've seen that send me emails and they send me text messages, I've gotten phone calls. I got 4 or 5 today. And I sit down and I wrote this little communication out. Now I want to make sure that it's provided on our website, or actually memorialized as far as the minutes. So Jennifer, I'll be giving you a copy of this to add to the minutes. In 1962, I was brought home from the hospital to a little place called Mount Juliet, Tennessee. They kicked us out of St. Thomas Hospital and they said, you got to go somewhere else. You can't stay here. I came home to Mount Juliet. My sisters, my mom, and my dad, we all lived off of Nonoville Road over here, and a little bitty 1,200 square foot house. I'm not sure how, 6 people in that house. I'm not sure how we did it, but we may do. In December of 1972, the city of Mount Juliet was created with about 1,200 people. That was December of 1972. And that's when the growth began. Annexation of areas around Mount Juliet started, and in 1986, our house was annexed. And we were told we were going to get sewer. Well, that was a load of exactly what the sewer pipes carry, is exactly what it was. Our septic tank was failing and we needed help. They said, you know what, we want to annex. And so y'all come on, we'll give you sewer. Now, we didn't get the promised sewer until 2005, after I ran for office and was first elected in 2000. Growing up when Nonoville Road was gravel, I had to ride my horse on Nonoville Road because you kill yourself on a bicycle. We had one little bitty store on Nonoville Road, and then we had John Riggins' Esso station on the Lebanon Road near the Nonoville Road intersection. We had an old bait store on the corner just across from Rice's Ham Store. I hunted squirrels and rabbits and deer on Mr. Agee's farm. Ours split 17 acres, and Mr. Hughley's farm later became the Wintry Golf Course. The Agee's farm wound up being Wintry Trace subdivision. Curd Road and Beckwith Road were just little roads barely wide enough for 2 cars to pass, and now they're the homes of Stone Hollow, Tuscan Gardens, and Jackson Hollow subdivisions. These 3 subdivisions are actually really good examples of good development. An eastern bypass was discussed, and because of the growth and the need for infrastructure to get my friends in Lebanon and neighbors from Lebanon Road to the interstate, because Mount Juliet Road just was getting too busy. I think we had 1 red light at that time. Well, that road's now called Golden Bear Gateway. Providence began around 2003, and we agonized over how we were going to provide infrastructure for the mall and 3,500 homes that were going to be built. We planned for the infrastructure to be built simultaneously with the development. And we made some errors along the way, by the way. The city does make errors. but their property tax was left at zero for many years as a result of the sales tax revenue generated by that mall that everybody curses now. In 2012, the city had to increase the property tax to accommodate for Wilson County not providing additional fire protection to our city. That property tax was set, and I believe, again, somebody correct me if you want to, 22 cents to pay for the new fire department. Was it 20? Okay, I knew it somewhere there. Our property tax over time has now been decreased and is now 11 cents. The lowest property tax in the state of Tennessee for the city with the fire department. My point is, we had some of the best schools in the United States in Wilson County. We've got a great city. We've been voted the safest, the most business-friendly city, the most fun city. You name it, we've got accolades for it. We've got a top-notch police department, a new and thriving fire department. Our department heads and support staff are part of a team that works so hard to come out with the best result for residential and business development. We are not Brentwood. We are not Franklin, and we don't want to be. Those cities have their own identities, and they've been very successful. And as a true Middle Tennessee guy, I'm very proud of them. But Mount Juliet is only 50 years old, and we're not perfect. But there are a lot of us that are very proud of what we've been able to accomplish in a very short period of time. Those of you that get angry at the growth, at this stage of the game, you are the growth. Most of the original people from Mount Juliet, the ones that started Mount Juliet, most of them are dead. They're gone. And as our public works director, Andy Barlow, was so fond of saying, when he's not saying roundabouts are awesome, he says, if you're sitting in traffic, you are traffic. I don't know any other way of describing that. Add to that, if you live in Mount Juliet, you are growth. You can't come to Mount Juliet, build your house, your tree house, and then pull the rope ladder up so nobody else can come in after you. It's not the way it works. There's a lot of us that sit up here for many years to make Mount Juliet a great place to be. And if we had that attitude, most of the growth would never have happened to begin with. You can be angry about the growth that we've experienced, as I have been in the past, or you can accept the fact that we have more opportunities to make new friends out of the people that we're seeing move here. I prefer to have new friends and to work through the challenges. I expect and I hope to get answers and solutions from people rather than gripes and complaints. Kind of sick of those now. Anybody wants to help, jump on board. We're all ears. We'll take all your suggestions. The griping, go somewhere else with it. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Trevette, or Vice Mayor Trevette.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't know how I'm going to follow that one, but I will say congratulations to you and your family. I've been following you on social media, and grandbaby is adorable. So, thank you for those comments. I'm one of the new birds that came in about 2013, and actually yesterday I was on some continuing education classes, and we've got 251 cities in this great state. So just put that in perspective. Where do we stand on those 251 states? I mean, there's 251 cities in this great state. So we are blessed. Today is Law Enforcement Day, so I appreciate this man sitting next to me for his services, as well as everybody else in this room, as well as that's listening and out there fighting to keep our city and community safe while we are at home, sleeping at night, and while we're out on the road. So thank you to all the men and women that are out there. I'll start off with a happy birthday to the mayor. I'm a day late, but this guy looks great for 65 years old. I didn't want to tell him, tell anybody his age, but man, he looks great. Maybe he can tell us his secret. Happy New Year's to everyone that is listening. For the folks that I think there's maybe 6 or 7 of you. I think everybody else is something about a ball game. I don't know much about it, but I'll just do some quick highlights. Looking forward to the February 11th father-daughter dance. Just thank the Parks Committee, as well as the Parks team out there that is setting this up for all the fathers to continue to lead by example and bring our daughters to these amazing events and just watch our kids grow up. So I was there last year with my 2 daughters. I asked them just last night if they wanted to attend, even though I had already got their tickets for them. And luckily, my 17 and 14-year-old daughter still wants to hang out with dad. So that's an honor. Let's see here. Thanks to the parks team for all their tree service, as well as just keeping with taking care of all the holiday decorations and so forth. The public's work crew for the streets during this last winter storm. I wasn't in town to see it all, but I've seen a lot of social media, and they did a great job. The IT team and the city leadership team during the holiday, though, this amazing building ended up flooding, and there was a lot of folks came in on the holiday to help clean up and get the pipes back to fix. So great job to our city staff as well as the IT team in keeping our building operational. Let's see here. I got two more quick things here, Mayor. Let's see here. For the folks that continuously to reach out to me on the different connections that's coming out here to the public meeting that's coming up here for the urban growth, as well as the Western connection. Please keep your questions and emails coming. That's the best part of this job, is not only do I get a chance to listen to your comments, your concerns, but it also gives me an opportunity to hear what some of the I'm sorry, I got a little bit off track up here, but it's just nice to be able to hear what our citizens are talking about, what their concerns are. The last thing here is trying to go down my list here. Let's see here. Mayor, I apologize. That concludes my report. Sorry.
Thank you, sir. With that, we will recognize the other birthday boy, Commissioner Hefner.
Thank you, Mayor. And if you figure out, I'll yield some time back to you. So whatever you forgot. But happy birthday, Mayor. And happy New Year, everyone. It is 2023, New Year. I hope everyone has a happy, healthy, safe, and prosperous 2023. Also want to congratulate, is it Grampy? Papa? Okay, was it sure? No, not Grumpy, Grampy, or no, Papa. Anyways, congratulations. I'm going to be real quick, I promise. But I do want to mention the Western Connector. Have been getting a lot of emails, concerned citizens. We're in the very early stages of this, folks. I'm not sure what the timeline is, but it's not going to happen anytime soon. And when I say that, probably within the next 3 to 5 years. But we have to start this process at some point. I have no interest personally, and I only speak for myself, in subdividing active farms. And that's something that I'm going to be pretty vocal about. I think as a result of this process that we're now just beginning, there are going to be variances of the proposed routes and possibly even some new ones that were not part of the original proposal. So I anticipate many workshops and many public input sessions. So please just know that this is a long process and we had to start. So, and I'm thank Andy Barlow for getting the ball rolling on this. So again, this is all part of planning. Also do appreciate Commissioner Justice and his comments on the growth. I do get it often when I'm out in public eating or via email or social media, which I try to avoid nowadays. But I do appreciate your comments, and I do echo the same. If you want to see growth, go to Davidson County, go over to Lebanon. I think we've done an extremely fine job here in Mount Juliet, not only just controlling it, but controlling the quality of the projects that come to the city. Because at the end of the day, we can't stop people from selling their land, but we can certainly control the quality that goes in there. So, anyways, with that, complete my report.
All right, thank you, sir. We'll recognize Commissioner Mullally.
Thank you. We had a ribbon cutting to open the Cedar Creek Greenway, which is in the back of Charlie Daniels Park. So that was very exciting. So it is open. Please feel free to use it. The day we had the ribbon cutting, it was so cold, but it was exciting. because it's a beautiful area, and that bridge that you walk over overlooking the water, and the woods is just really beautiful. So I encourage everyone to get out and use that. It's about a mile long, I believe. We BPAC, which is Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, we have annual events, and the one in December was to walk around. We picked different neighborhoods to walk around at Christmas time to look at the Christmas lights. So this year we went to Willoughby Station, and we had a really good turnout. It was very cold that night as well, but that didn't stop the people from coming out and bringing their little kids. And we had a very talented family that came as well to sing and play instruments, and they were very talented. Let's see. Thank you to Dunkin' Donuts for providing the hot chocolate, which went really well that night, and all their donuts and cookies that they provided. Sent out my December newsletter last Monday, I believe it was. So you can download that, jennifermullally.com, or sign up for the email list if you'd like. Did anybody mention no, I don't think you did. The police headquarters, the work session at the next meeting, which is January 23rd at 5:15, I believe it is. They're presenting a more accurate cost figures on the headquarters. So that's at the next meeting. I think, isn't it the 23rd, I believe, here at 5:15. Happy birthday to the mayor. And I didn't know it was Commissioner Hefner's birthday as well. Happy birthday. And congratulations to Commissioner Papa over there. This Thursday, we're having a town hall meeting regarding a mixed-use development, which is a PUD amendment for the Providence Central development. And it's open to the public, so feel free to come out and join us. It's at 201 Belinda Parkway, which is Grace Baptist Church, at 6:15. We have a lot of speakers, so we're going to start on time. So that starts at 6:15 this Thursday, the 12th. And we'll be talking about the developer and the engineer will be there as well. And so I have an agenda that will go by and kind of stick to it as much as possible. So anyone's invited to come to that. I think that was all. I think that was all I had.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner. Oh, I'll add, first of all, thank everybody for the calls of concern. I was very sick last meeting, so I know the vice mayor did a wonderful job chairing the meeting in my absence. I'd also like to thank everyone for the birthday wishes, also the anniversary wishes. Commissioner Justice was talking about our property tax. I don't think we went overboard for our anniversary celebration. It was our 25th celebration. We did go out to eat. And I got to say, the cost of dinner was 150% of the cost of my annual property taxes to the city of Mount Juliet. So you're getting a pretty good deal here. So just to put it in comparison, Commissioner Justice also commented about the urban growth boundary. He says, we have no desire, or we're not going to annex you. And I think a more accurate statement based on state law would be, we cannot annex you without your written permission. So you may already be in the urban growth boundary. Most have survived. It is simply, for most people, just a line drawn on a map as to where the municipalities can expand. This means the municipalities in the county are worked out expansion plans in advance. If land develops out there, this gives the city an opportunity to be called upon to annex that. When the farm, we talk about active farms, if a farm chooses to be inactive, a lot of times they choose to develop that property, and that gets annexed. If it's outside the urban growth boundary, it cannot be annexed. So then it winds up asking the county to support urban type developments. And, the county, it's not fair to the county. The county's not set up in a way that it can easily support urban type developments. This just simply gives the municipalities the ability to make those annexations and support urban type developments if it's needed. So a lot of questions with that has nothing to do with the connectors per se. I've got a lot of feedback on the connector, and that was simply the purpose of the last meeting we had. We've contracted with an engineering firm. The engineering firm has simply looked at a map and said, these routes make the most sense based on what you want to do. They're not factoring in things about who lives there, whose yard they take, whose cousin it is, or whatever. That's not factored in there. It just says these are simply the most logical routes to take. We put those out there and ask for feedback on those, and I appreciate every bit of feedback that we've gotten on that. That's part of the process. It's a long process. I hear the comments. You should have done this 10 years ago. It's still the same land 10 years ago as it is today. But we've got to get rolling today, or somebody in 15 years from now will be saying you should have done this 25 years ago. So we got to get the ball rolling. We're just asking for feedback. That's the purpose of the meeting. That is not a condemnation of anybody's land or any of that stuff. We're asking for feedback on that, and we've been provided some. At this point, if you ask me with the information I have, I can't make any decisions on any of that at this point, other than an emotional decision. As we get further down the process, we'll get more information on this. And all I can say is, and the only promise I can make is to just simply vote what's in the best interest of the city and what's in the best interest of those that live here. We'll get more into that. We're obviously going to need more information before a decision can be made. That's another stage. This is most likely going to be a 3-phase project. I think there's some agreement that it make the most sense to start from the interstate and work its way up, but that's not written in stone, and that'll all be worked out as we go. Heard comments around this, a lot of it about growth, and I know the commissioners spoke a lot about growth here tonight. But I just want to say hypothetically, and it would be that hypothetically, if the city could just say there is no more growth, nothing else in the city is going to be developed. If you don't want to farm anymore, you can't develop your farm. If you want to open a business here and build something, we're not going to allow that either. If hypothetically, if we could stop all the growth in Mount Juliet, that has no bearing on what goes on around us. If you get past Central Pike and you go south on Mount Juliet Road, the minute you cross Central Pike, you're no longer in the city. There's a lot of development going on out there. There's a lot of development. I believe that's just getting geared up in that area down there. And here's the thing. The only path that you have in Wilson County, with the exception of just one, to get to the interstate involves traveling through a municipality. So let's talk about the property tax and cost low here. One thing that we've been very diligent about as a city is to public-private partnerships in developing this stuff. We partner with the growth the best we can to work for improving infrastructure. We obviously have a burden on ourselves when development comes in to do things, to be able to justify what we ask of the developers. So we've made a lot of effort to make sure that gets in place. There's some things out here, like when you get outside the cities, that can't be done. It's just not in the county just doesn't allow certain things on roadways, such as A-cell, D-cell lanes that we require at the developer's expense to be put in. So it's kind of a balance. If we could stop all the growth here in Mount Juliet, we would cut ourselves off from a funding source of the growth, but we would still be on the hook to fix the infrastructure issues that we currently have. And plus, they would be more traffic being channeled through the city. It would continue to grow outside the city, whether we stopped it or not. And that was all a hypothetical situation, because I get the question asked all the time. We legally have, I think, really probably only one way to stop growth, and that would be to use eminent domain, take the land, buy it from somebody, and turn it into a park. That would probably be our only path forward to stop growth. And I've got a lot of feedback on eminent domain. I know it's not popular, so it's not even a suggestion. But with that, there is a lot of work out there going on to addressing the infrastructure meetings. Had a great meeting. I thank Senator Pody and, of course, Representative Lynn as well for the work that they've done to try to help us along the way with TDOT. We had a great meeting. The city manager and our director of public works, Andy Barlow, sitting down with the governor, the TDOT, Commissioner Ely, and just talking through some of the projects. We'll mention more about that tonight, but we got a lot of good things going on. Lastly, I'll just announce we got the State of the City address that's coming up. It'll be hosted by the Chamber of Commerce. It's going to be February 15th. It'll be 11:15 a.m. If you're not going to be able to join us, it will be live streamed. We got a lot of updates to go over from the city, a lot of positive things that are going on. Also, we got a lot of stuff that we're putting in the works to address some of the issues that we have. We're not perfect, but I definitely don't know of another city I want to raise my children in. So with that, we'll recognize our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, and those in attendance tonight and watching from home. First and foremost, I want to thank Miss Jennifer, from our planning department, our planning director, for filling in for Miss Sheila. Miss Sheila Luckett, I think this is maybe the third time in history that she's had to miss. She's a trooper, but she's at home, and I hope she's probably watching. If I know her, so I know everybody sends regards because they were asking about her earlier. She's feeling ill, but she wanted to be here, and we said, no, you need to stay home and get better. So if you're listening, Miss Sheila, I hope you get to feeling better. I'd also like to thank the Mount Juliet High School girls dance team for being here tonight and sharing some time with the elected body and myself. It's fun having them here, and we wish them luck. They're going off to compete, and I think it was Orlando, as Commissioner Hefter said. It's cute looking at them because you sitting there thinking of your granddaughter, your daughter, your wife, whatever, and you remember that they at one point were in high school or going to be in high school at some point in the future. And the little things I was seeing, the similarities in them and my young granddaughter, I could already envision fast forwarding in my life and seeing her doing those same things. So makes you realize the service that you provide in your community is that's the kids that you're serving and their moms and dads. It makes you feel really good about your city. So good luck to them. And we thank the moms and the dads and the teachers for all the time and effort they put into that because they're very talented and we hope that they win. To Mr. Shaw, I wanted to thank him. I did get a chance to talk to him, and in my 33 years of service, I want him to know that we don't take lightly what he says. And when you come to a meeting and you speak publicly and take time from your family and others because you're passionate about something, I want to let you know that we do listen. It's a lot of times it's hard to address that here. And there's a lot of things that's been tweaked over the years just simply because somebody like yourself came forward and spoke. So thank you for doing that. Really appreciate that. As far as the UGB, I feel like I've got to speak to that to give a simpler example of why I'm glad that we called that meeting together and that you are all putting all this hard work in. For anything in the UGB to be changed, it has to be a unanimous vote by the city of Lebanon, Watertown, Mount Juliet, and the county. Not one person can say they don't want to do it. But to tell you the most important reason why the UGB and changing is important is we have a subdivision in Mount Juliet, Tennessee in the Providence area. And we've had this happen before in the city in my tenure with the city that wants to be annexed because they are older homes, older sewer systems. Some of those are starting to fail. They're literally right across the street from our city limits. There's a subdivision that's here, that's in the city, a street, and then a subdivision. And they want to be annexed because their sewers failing. To do that, because it's in Mount Juliet per se proper, but not in the city limits, but it's also not in our urban growth boundary. So as a result, they can't be annexed, even though they desire to be. So even something that simple would have to go back to the urban growth boundary committees of all the municipalities in the county to be changed. So we have a subdivision roughly of about 60 homes that wants to be in the city. So even if we were doing it just for that reason, it's not to annex them. As the mayor said, lawfully, we can't annex somebody unless they request to be annexed, which happens all the time. So it hurts your heart as a city when you have somebody that says, we want to be in the city and pay roughly somewhere between $200 and $300 a year to have all these wonderful services. I reside literally a block outside the city. This city, because the leadership of this elected body, is creating an EMS division. I can tell you from a dad that served on the reserve that suffered a massive heart attack in Willoughby Station serving this community. Had it not been for EMS and fire and police, he would have likely died. He ended up having quadruple bypass surgery. So I know the importance of emergency services. So thank you all for stepping and going above and beyond, because there's very few cities this size that are creating their own EMS division. We will literally have 3 EMS vehicles in the city of Mount Juliet, when currently I think on this end of the county, there's 3 in total on the entire end of the county. So I think that's important to note because I understand people fear cities annexing them in like they did in the old days in I call it tiny town before the tiny town law passed. So I just want to say that we're not doing it because there's a desire to take someone's property taxes or to add property taxes or build fees onto them or to take something from anybody. It's actually to provide a service. And I think that's the reason we've got so many people moving here from all over the country is the secret's out. And we do have an absolutely wonderful city here. And that's thanks to not only this elected body and the staff, but and the people long before me, but also for the people that sit in this room and watch at home and TV, the people that make up our community. So hokey, I know it may be, but I think that if I could open up and make everybody transparent in here, they would truly see the service of this city, its elected body, and the citizens is only make it better today than it was yesterday. and better tomorrow than it is today. So God bless everybody and Happy New Year. Happy birthday to everybody here and those that we missed. And God bless you all. Mayor, that concludes my report.
All right, thank you, sir. That will move into the business portion of the agenda. We'll look at 9.1, an ordinance adding 6 part-time firefighters, AEMT paramedic positions to the fire EMS department. Have a motion? Second. Any questions or comments on this? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? 9.1 carries. 9.2, an ordinance to annex into the corporate boundaries of the city of Mount Juliet approximately 0.86 acres property known as Smith property, 690 through 694 South Rutland Road, map 96, parcel 32.11, and located within the city's urban growth boundary. Have a motion? Second. Any questions or comments on this? And just to confirm with Ms. Hamlin, that was at the owner's request?
It was at the owner's
Was at the
request.
owner's request. Only way we can legally do it. Any other questions, comments in this? All in favor of 9.2, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries as well. 9.3, a resolution adopting a plan of services for the property known as the Smith property located at 690 through 694 South Rutland Road, map 96, parcel 3211 in Wilson County, Tennessee, located within the city's urban growth boundary. Have a motion? Second. Any questions, comments? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? 9.3 carries. And then we're on the ordinance's first reading, 9A1, an ordinance amending Part B of the Unified Development Code of the City of Mount Juliet, known as the Zoning Regulation Ordinance 2001-29, adopted October 8, 2001, as amended by amending 102 General Definitions and Article 6 Commercial District Regulations, Section 6, 102, Uses and Structures, to reduce the acreage requirement from 20 acres to 5 acres for mixed-use sites and mixed-use buildings on properties fronting North Mount Juliet Road, located within the commercial town center. Mixed-use development within 1/2 mile of the intersection of East/West Division and Mount Juliet Road, and revise the definition for mixed-use developments. Motion. Second. Any questions or comments? Commissioner Mullally?
I probably should have done this when we set the agenda, but A should read second reading.
I was really counting on you to notice that as soon as it come out of my mouth.
So
This is second. This is second reading. Yeah. So if we pass this a second time, it will be second reading, definitely. But yeah, as soon as I read that, I was like, we just had this talk. Second reading for the fourth time. I like it. Do you have anything else, Commissioner? All right. Commissioner Justice?
There is I just want to make sure that we added in the last meeting, but I'm not sure that it made it through the amendment or as an amendment because we were needed the actual documentation to add to it for the wedge or the piece that was cut out over here off of West Caldwell. There was an amendment made to that. Did it language? I have not looked at it to see. No, it's something different. Was that language added in?
At the last meeting, you asked me to include the restriction area that we utilize for the transient habitation. For
Yes, ma'am.
the West Caldwell area, and that is included in the agenda.
Okay, so
And
all right.
ordinance tonight.
Okay, I saw the chart or the map that included it, but I wasn't sure.
Included in, I believe it's number 10 too. We'll
Okay.
refer back to this restriction area. But it would be prohibited, commercial mixed use developments would be prohibited
Okay,
in the restriction area, which is exhibit A in your packet.
okay.
And I have it here if you want to look at it.
Yeah, I saw that part, but I was looking at the language, so I was looking for the language within the resolution
It is at the back
ordinance,
of the
rather. Sorry.
chart, and it talks about within within the exception of CTC mixed-use developments. It's number 10. It's the last sentence, also subject to the restriction area shown as
Exhibit A, as noted in ordinance 23 dash whatever number this will be assigned to. It's in number 10 at the end of the chart, located in the ordinance. So it looks a little like this.
Yeah, I think I'm looking at the same thing on here on my computer.
It's
but-
the very last sentence, and it talks about Exhibit A as noted in ordinance 23 dash. We'll have to assign it an ordinance number when it's assigned.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Ready to vote? All in favor of 9A1, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. So it passes with a vote of 4-1. Next item on the agenda is under new business 11-1, an ordinance amending Part B of the Unified Development Code of the City of Mount Juliet, Tennessee, known as the Zoning Regulations, Ordinance 2001-29, adopted October 8, 2001, as amended by amending Article 2, Construction of Language and Definitions to 103.3, Article 3, Use Regulations 3, 103.3.18, Paragraph B, and Article 6, Commercial District Regulations 6-102A to include the definitions, descriptions, and activities listed in the recreational district and seasonal rental units in CRC PUD, Commercial Retail Center Planned Unit Development Zoning. That was have a motion and a second. The item's on the floor. Any questions or comments? Commissioner Milady?
Okay, I had three things that I just wanted to bring up, but first I want to make a motion to amend section 2-103.3 under commercial activities.
Sorry, section 3,
Section 2-103.3.
2-103. Okay.
This is under commercial activities. Under the proposed definition is the very last line where it talks about and being within a PUD and located at least in part. I would like to add the word within 1 mile from Old Hickory Lake or Percy Priest Lake, because the way it reads now, it sounds like it has to be at least 1 mile away from the lake. So I would like to add the word within, which is the purpose of this, I think, to create a residential, not residential, recreational area around the lake. So
I'll second. Do you, any? Okay. Commissioner Justice?
I think what you're saying is probably more accurate than what's in there. It shows in the beginning of that statement, it says being within a PUD and located at least in part 1 mile from Old Hickory Lake or Percy Priest Lake. But grammatically, I think you're right that fits a little bit better right there. So I mean, that's almost a grammatical error, but I'm good with it. So I second it.
Okay. Any other questions, comments on the amendment? Ready to vote on this amendment? All in favor of the amendment to modify section 2-103.3 to change it from reading being within 1 mile, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That is amended. All right, we're back on 11-1 as amended one time. Any other questions or comments on it? Commissioner Milady?
all right, I had asked a couple of things. And one, I would like to know, are there any details on like the size of the buildings or the cabins? Is that going to be written later? Like, it can't be larger than a certain size and that kind of thing. So,
Commissioner Justice?
There is no proposed project that is involved with this particular ordinance right now.
Mhm.
Okay. I mean, there's a piece that's going through, but it's actually just a portion, a tiny portion of what we're talking about. The scope of the zoning allowable zoning would take in the entire shoreline, going all the way around to Cedar Creek Marina, jumping across over to Gay Winds, and anything is on the lake or within 1 mile of the lake in that direction. And it's set up so that CRC zoning and its allowed uses could be put into the recreational side of this, so that it would allow for basically lake life. So there's no individual one piece that there's not a project in here right now for that. It would have to come in as a PUD. Sam, is that correct? So it has to come in front of us for the zoning to be changed anyway. So if it's not something that's somebody likes, then obviously it's got to go away.
Mhm.
The whole theory behind this was to begin with that we are the city between two lakes, but we touch one lake about 50 feet. that was the only contact. So this gives us an opportunity to actually go around and in the lake area, be able to create a zoning that would allow tourism to come to this section of town. My district's the only one that has that capability. We've got one subdivision over there, that Savannah Point, and it's gated. So it's kind of limited. As of right now, we also have reached out to the Corps of Engineers about the possibility of taking over the area, the recreation area, so where the swimming and all that takes place, so that we could add that to our parkland as well. We're working on getting, city manager has actually been talking to them. I don't know what status is as of right now, but they're actually, the last I heard, they weren't even opposed to it. They thought it was a good idea, but we have to present them with some documents before we can do it. That's what this is all about. So there's no particular singular project right now that this is geared around. So
Right.
lot sizes and things like that are not going to be, they won't be touched at this point.
Okay. All right. And then this is something I was confused on, and I think maybe Gino might be a Gino question. And it has to do with the also under section 2103.3, it states that no more than 15% of units are occupied on any single day for 3 consecutive months of the year. And then under section 3-103.3, under the current language and the proposed language, it states all facilities where 30% or more of the living units located on the same lot are being occupied on less than a monthly basis. So I'm not connecting that. What's the difference?
Two things. 18A talks about an activity type. And that's where you begin. That's a description to be a transient habitation. You have to fulfill 18A. And then it lists hotels, motels, tourist homes and courts, sporting and recreational vehicle camps. And then it's adding another use, recreational seasonal rental units, which then refers back to the definition that we just discussed, which you amended by adding the within to describe specifically that particular use, which is a recreational district seasonal rental unit.
Okay.
So, yeah,
It was just,
no problem. Good
I just
question.
got confused. Now I did ask Rob Ely, who is our GIS administrator, for a map that, okay.
Sorry about that.
So just for the record and for educational purposes, I'll just read you his comment, because I had asked for a map of proposed CRC zoning within a half mile of the lake or either lake. So his reply was, the future CRC PUD zoning question is a tough question to answer because a large swath of this area does not have a future land use designation assigned. The land use will be assigned after the new proposed urban growth boundary is finalized. And, we have that meeting starting Wednesday. from the current zoning map, I could not locate a single CRC PUD property that fell within a mile of Old Hickory Lake. In the future, CRC PUD zoning may exist in this area, but that would be fully controlled by what property is rezoned by the board, this board, and would be guided by the future land use map that will be determined at a later time. So, yeah, and so these are the, okay. All right, so just for the record, I wanted just to read his response. That's all.
Any other questions or comments? I'll say this, if this passes tonight on second reading, I've got some questions that I don't expect anybody to answer tonight. So I give you a month a head start, because if this passes coming from the planning commission, it skips one meeting. It'll be back heard for second reading at the beginning of February, assuming it passes tonight. Where's the lake? I mean, I know where the lake is, but who defines what the lake is, what the actual boundaries of the lake are? Is this by Army Corps of Engineers definition? Did Rob just go from the shoreline on the map? Is there actually a legal definition of the edges of the lake to be 1 mile from? If we have a flood or something like this, or it retreats or something, how do we enforce it? As the other question is, how do we enforce that? I guess it's through the planning process. We'd have a map and see where the parcel goes in there. Is that the edge of the parcel, the entire parcel, or just all the parcel? So just some questions and thoughts. I know you're probably taking notes on this because you're doing the minutes. The other, I'm just trying to get my head wrapped around it. Are we doing more harm than good? And I say that from just infrastructure requirements, possibly. I don't know. But I'm also looking for the revenue. I want to know that we're not poaching from hotels that exist in Providence to do it. The other one is I'm going to take some time to speak to MTask on it. And I just want to know the economics around where we're going down this path on it. I don't have a problem with it per se, but I just like to get some of that nailed down, because when it comes to opportunities for development, sometimes people get really creative on what they want to do. So nail those down. That's just comments for now. So I'll look for a reply when we come back on second reading if it passes tonight. That's the only ones I've written down tonight.
I can answer one of those right now.
Answer one of these for me.
Okay. The first one about the location of the lake. Okay. That actually was set by me sitting down with Rob and showing him where the lake lines are based on my 60 years of living in Mount Juliet on the lake. So that's where that came from. We don't have a designation, and I don't know that the Corps of Engineers can give you any kind of a better definition of what the lake is, because they control waterways and waters of the state that go all the way up to the ballpark at the Little League that comes from Old Hickory Lake.
That's another concern, tributaries. And
that is not considered part of the lake by our definition and by this map.
Well, I want a definition that the chancellor will honor as well.
Well, we need to get a definition from Mr. Marchetti then. I think he would probably be best suited for that particular definition. I can tell you, like I said, I've lived on the lake my entire life. And so I know where it is and where it starts, and I know where the Corps will bounce you out of if you go in the wrong place. And so,
well, we can know what we mean and have the best of intentions, but over the years, people will help us interpretate what we meant.
Interpretate?
Interpretate.
That's a West Tennessee version. Okay, I got you.
Well, it may not be a legal term either, but
it is now. The mayor said it, so it's good.
Our city attorney was leaning forward as if, and he's calling it off. So
it's 20 minutes late.
He's like there is second reading as well. So, any other questions or comments on this? All right. All in favor of 11-1 as once amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That carries. I just ask it not be placed on consent for we can when it comes back on second reading, so we can discuss. The next item on the agenda is Resolution 11-1, a resolution to confirm the City of Mount Juliet's commitment to transportation improvements. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Have a motion. and a second. I'll start off with this. This is a direct takeaway from the meeting the city had with TDOT Commissioner Ely and our governor. We got to sit down with them, and as our last meeting may not have ended as well as we wanted. It wasn't a bad meeting, and we're talking about the meeting that took place a few months ago with TDOT Commissioner. He was new. I think he has somewhere between, I'll just round it off, maybe 700 projects actively in the state. I think he had been on the job maybe a few weeks at a time. We couldn't expect him to have all 700 of those projects down. TDOT's got a $1.2 billion budget. 600 million of that goes to maintenance across the state, and the other 600 million of that goes to improvements or new projects. If you take the 3 grand divisions, that leaves about 200 million for Middle Tennessee. There happens to be 145 municipalities in the Middle Tennessee area alone. So we got an interchange was the primary focus on that. We talked about a lot of the projects we have in the city, including Lebanon Road and a lot of other things, widening South Mount Juliet Road. A lot of these projects we come up on there, but those can be phased, and which makes it a little easier for TDOT to do some of these projects without having to commit 10-15% of their entire annual budget to one project. Now, when it comes to an interchange, it's very difficult to phase an interchange. You can't build the left lane this year and come back and put the turning lane in the next year and then put the other lane in there. It doesn't make sense economically either. So it's a large commitment. So we went to the governor's office, and we made an offer, to the city to step in up to committing $25 million of our revenue in order to kickstart this. And of course, in exchange, one of the folks there with TDOT says, it doesn't sound like it was just a straight up gift. What are you seeking in return? I think there were some other questions about it. And I said, listen, we're asking for credit on future projects on these things. They're smaller for you in the future. They won't impact your budget as much, and we're asking for some credits on this. And we had some conversations about what that maybe look like. But this is really an opportunity. And, the governor and the commissioner says they looked at the interchange there with the map, and, the comment was made, we have 25 projects just like this across the state. And we're looking for a place to get started. And our Senator Pody asked a very good question. Do you have anybody else who's making that's presenting the case economically for the benefits here for not only the city but the state, and is willing to come to the table and offer the support? And of course, it's unanimous that the city of Mount Juliet is stepping up and doing things that a lot of cities are not. A lot of cities are not able to, and that's some of the reference I made back to commissioners of the past. A lot of cities aren't able to step out like that. But the agreement is, we made a very nice offer to the state. They obviously, the governor obviously didn't pull out a piece of decree paper out of his desk drawer there and write up a decree that it be done. But I think we've left the state, and beyond that, I don't know if there's much else we can do as a city, but we've made the case to the state here. We gave the state, I think, everything that we can do as a city to move this project along. And it, for us, is, every year that it gets kicked down the road, that's not the right word, but every year that it can't be done, or for whatever reason, we wind up in a situation where, one, traffic is left in there. This is a way to mitigate traffic, a lot of traffic through there. One of the estimates is this is a project that could take up to 60% of the traffic out of the Providence area. So every year we wait on that's a year that doesn't happen. Now, from an economic standpoint, every year that this doesn't happen, it's hard to put a number on what we're having. But not only from what's being planned, and we have pad-ready sites there. And Commissioner Hefner talks about the Boyd report. And they didn't just say we were a nice-looking city, or we were a city that got a lot of potential. Was it number one city in the Southeast? Was it Southeast or South Central? But South Central. Number one city out there for destination. We're kind of a destination. We're more of a location right now. But with this interchange, we can be the destination city for that. And that's stuff that can come back into this city. That's revenues that we're missing out on as a city because we don't have this interchange. And then there's also the economic impact of what happens to the Providence area. Imagine when going to Providence isn't a 10, 15 minute, depending on what time of the day, even more commitment to go down there and catch lunch. Imagine what that does for the existing businesses out there. And this isn't just motivated purely by the benefits of the city. Keep in mind, for every single dollar that the city of Mount Juliet brings in revenue, the school systems get the exact same revenue back into this. One of the things I talked about in 2020 was, one, doing infrastructure improvements. The other one was partnerships with our schools. What better way to partnership with our schools out there is to find ways to generate revenue for the school systems, which has got growth issues of its own, which has got other needs that they need to do as well. What better way is to do something that's one time solves a lot of the city's problems, actually solves a lot of problems that the city of Mount Juliet had no input in doing because they occurred in other counties. They occurred south of the city, outside of that, solves some of those problems, but also brings in much needed revenue for our school system. For me, this is something that it's just not simply a question of can we do this. To me, this is something that we have to step up and do as a community and as a city. So that's my, any other questions or comments on this? Commissioner Hefner.
I agree with your comments, Mayor, and I do support this. Any measure that's going to help relieve traffic in my district on South Mount Juliet Road, and I share border lines with Commissioner Mullally. My question is, on the 60% traffic reduction, is that going northbound, or does that include southbound traffic? And the reason why I ask the question is we're going to be spending potentially up to $25 million to put a Central Pike interchange that's going to relieve traffic that's coming out of the city limits of Mount Juliet, that's coming from Antioch, that's coming from pretty much south of Central Pike. Is that a fair and accurate statement?
Yes, I think one of the biggest burdens we face in the south side of the interstate on South Mount Juliet Road is that traffic that is cross-county traffic. I was looking back at the interchange justification report that was finished back in 2017. So, I mean, these numbers have got a little age on them, but it's still active. And based on those numbers, that everything south of Central Pike, that volume was going to double in the time frame of the study. Now, that's their time frame is looking from the time they did the counts back in 2014 all the way to 2040. But still, I mean, that's a 2-lane road down there, and there's no plans for that. So you're going to have that congestion down there, but how are you going to do it to have that congestion on top of our demands for commercial traffic for our commercial cores? For Providence is one, Providence Central is going to be another. And so, you know, this is the only way to serve that. And to your question, I think you were asking about
Correct.
at the interchange. It depends on some of the movements. Some of the movements you got in the peak hour, you got almost 90% reduction in traffic for some of the exit traffic. One of the biggest problems, if anybody tried to go south of Mount Juliet Road heading down to Providence, November, December, you're backed up to Old Lebanon Dirt Road. And the reason why is they have to give so much time for people coming off the interstate at Mount Juliet Road so they don't back up on the interstate, because that's a fatality issue. We don't want that. And so that frees up room that we can give on our signal times to get people down there faster.
So my point in making that statement, which you agreed, makes it more important that we look at the urban growth boundaries and seeing what support we can get to expand those, because I want to find out how we can recover this $25 million. And it's going to have, in my opinion, I believe that's going to come from developers. And if this is a Gino question, if we can create or establish, and I'm going to give Mr. Barlow credit for this, I spoke to him earlier, create a special district of some sort that we can figure out some sort of an assessment on new construction that's going to take place in and around a mile or 2 mile radius of this interchange. Is that something, Gino, that is possible? So we can establish a new district. Okay. Thank you. To help recover the $25 million.
Absolutely.
Okay. So that's something that I'm obviously going to be looking to do. very
Yeah.
soon.
And there's and nothing not to be discounted too is the efforts we already have ongoing with the private development down there for us, placing the new road in there. Adams Lane is being made. And a lot of people ask, like, why did Adams Lane go away? Well, it's simply to make room for that interchange. And we're using private development to do that. As they're doing that, they're replacing the road that goes in there, responsible for a lot of that widening in there. We do have a gap as you get closer to the gas line. They're going back to where Weema's building a fire department, but there's two people wanting to do some stuff down there already. So, and I told them there's no way I can support anything moving forward until we have some answers on what's going on there. We're really a bottleneck on that. So that's some opportunities to complete the rest of our gaps.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, questions or comments? Ready to vote? Mr. Mullally.
Well, I just want to say thank you to the mayor and Kenny and Andy for stepping up and going and meeting with the governor. And thank you to Mark Pody and just, getting Mount Juliet on the radar there.
Mr. Justice. Mr. Justice.
Obviously, the challenges that we face are not in my district along the lines of this particular development. I'm going to be voting in favor of it. But there's a lot of information out there, actually misinformation has been thrown our way and blame that has been thrown our way, when in truth, the blame is not ours to bear, although the price tag is. Okay. I looked at the accounting post that we've got coming over Hobson Pike Bridge, where there's Mr. Barlow, you have to help me with this. I believe didn't we figure it was 13,000?
Yes. Yep.
13,000 cars a day that come from the south to the north, crossing the Hobson Pike Bridge. Then we have approximately 7,000 cars that get more in addition that get on the interstate. So out of 20,000 cars that are getting on the interstate, 13,000 of those are not even coming from the city of Mount Juliet. And we get blamed for not having provided the infrastructure. But the truth is we provided the infrastructure for a lot of people that are traveling from Rutherford County and Davidson County to come over into our city and get on the interstate and create some of the problems that we've got now. Now, we also looked at some other, because I had made some comments about I-24. We were trying to figure out, what the problem was. I think it was 12 years ago with the traffic count on I-24 going into Nashville, 75,000 cars. And today those numbers are approximately 145,000 cars. It's a parking lot.
Yep.
And I don't blame those people coming from Davidson County and Rutherford County and coming to Mount Juliet to get on at a more convenient location. But we need to understand where the problems start and where they stop. And we, as a city, are going to step up and we're going to do what we need to do to create answers and solutions. And this is what I was referring to actually earlier on. This is what we do. We fix things. I've been fixing things for a lot of years, and this one kind of galls me to fix it. But the truth is, it's what the people in Mount Juliet deserve and should have.
Yeah, this is, to put it in perspective, this is no small ask that this board is facing here. This is a $25 million commitment, and just to keep this in perspective, up to 25. But our budget for 21-22 budget was 25.6 million. So when you put it in that perspective, that's what I say. I, as I'm serving here for the mayor for 2 years, didn't generate all that. I can't take credit for all the things that have done in the past, but that, to the Commissioner Justice's point, we've still got some opportunities to take care of it, and we've got an opportunity to act. And a lot of people have gone a long ways to putting a good foundation in place for this city and to be able to do this. And this is the thing that keeps building. It keeps building. It keeps growing. And you talk about the road and the transportation through here, the traffic counts that are coming. I know sometimes it's got the appearance when you come across that bridge, like, did they not plan for anything? Did they not see this coming? Well, there's a lot of planning went into the thought of how the city of Mount Juliet would go, but they weren't a lot of people anticipating the entire Middle Tennessee area. They certainly weren't people anticipating Mount Juliet Road becoming the bypass for a lot of this traffic. So there's a lot of work that goes into it. And, sometimes they don't always get it perfect when you start looking 20, 25 miles out on trying to make predictions on what's going to happen. But the only times, and I've been asked this question, get asked this question a lot by Boy Scouts. Which one of the votes do you regret the most? And I don't know that I could just sit down and say there's one particular vote I regret doing per se. There's some of them I wish I could do different, wish I had more information when it was given to me. But I think the biggest mistake, and I can say this for me personally, going back, serving on this board as a commissioner long before I was mayor, was back in 2014, back in 2015, before those time periods, we weren't seeing the revenue coming into the city we had. And I didn't have the faith in the city at the time as my biggest fault to be able to make a bet on this community like we're doing here tonight, because the money just wasn't coming in at the time. And a lot of people ask, why wasn't certain things done 10, 20 years ago? The question is who would have paid for it 10, 20 years ago? Who would want their property taxes raised to the point to pay for all the infrastructure to be built before everybody got here? And then when everybody shows up, they get nice, free 6-lane roads. So it goes both ways on that question. So this is the opportunity to really make a statement here tonight on what we believe in this city. And I've said it before, we have bet the city on our economic development that's going on in this city, on our businesses out here that partner with. We have bet the whole city on it because our property tax generates less than 10% of our revenue that you'll find in our general fund. The rest of it is made up through business activities, economics, that the economic impact of what we have going in this community. And this is literally doubling down on that commitment to what we're doing here in this city. So, Mr. Justice.
A very good point. And to add to your point, this also puts us in a position where we have to actually consciously do everything in our power now to make sure that the businesses in Mount Juliet are successful.
Commissioner Mullally.
Since y'all are talking about growth, I just want to remind people, because we do get blamed a lot for not doing anything. And I just want to remind people of one of the major contributors of growth in this city occurred back in the early 2000s. How many people were here in the early 2000s? Do you remember a referendum vote back here in the city that was put before the voters? It was liquor by the drink, and it was voted in, which brought in Providence Marketplace, which exploded. So personally, I voted against it for whatever that matters. But anyway, I just want to remind people, when you complain about growth, if you were here and you voted for that, it's, so just think about that.
Are you implying it worked when that passed? Liquor and sewage, the two,
Yeah.
the two recipes for growth. That's right. And don't mix them. Mr. Hefner.
One more quick comment. Actually, I was going to ask Andy Barlow a question, but I know we're trying to get out of here for a football game.
You get home by halftime.
And
I'll be
no,
quick.
this Central Pike interchange will definitely have an impact on South Mount Juliet Road. No question about it. And I think what ultimately is what we're going to see as a result of it is the money or the cost that we have set aside to widen South Mount Juliet Road may become less of a priority, and that those funds that are tied to widening South Mount Juliet Road can potentially be used somewhere else in the city with a higher priority. Lebanon Road, East Division Street, Old Lebanon Dirt Road. So also keep that in mind, because, but anyways, just keep that in mind. It does have a ripple effect to the extent of South Mount Juliet Road and the money that we've already set aside to widen that.
You are right, because it's essentially a 2-lane road fitting a 2-lane road. So, yeah, Commissioner Justice.
To add what you're saying, and I understand what you're saying, but in Mr. Barlow, I think it was 3 years ago that TDOT actually gave us that money back and actually partnered with the federal government to get the additional money.
Some of it, yes.
So there was that, those funds are now TDOT, state funds and federal funds that actually are going towards those projects. So there's really no money to get back from them for the most part. We've already spent some, I think, just on engineering and such.
Yes.
But as far as any additional money, that money actually was, I'm not going to say granted back to us. It was taken out of our budget because they said they didn't need it. And that's the reason for the extension of the 2 years, is because the federal government got involved and with the NEPA reports, the EPA reports and such that makes you have to go out a little farther and look a little deeper for the snail darter and the Indiana brown bat.
You got it.
The simple 48-step checklist that takes 8 years to do. Yes.
Correct. Exactly.
Amen.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor of the resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The resolution carries. And with that, that's the last item on the agenda. Without objection, we're adjourned.